Hello, I hope all of you are doing well. I just want to say this from the top. I've tried doing this the other way, which is the subtle way, by not saying what I'm about to say. And that is, if you find this video useful at all, or you enjoy it in any way, please hit the like button early and subscribe to this channel, because I have tons and tons of videos coming to you covering a wide range of products, okay? So once again, I'm coming to you from my vehicle here. It's easier for me to film when I'm on the road for some reason. So I have very little distractions, or I don't have the same distractions I have at home. I have plenty of distractions around me, like all of these crazy Atlanta drivers. But other than that, it's just easier. So let me know what you think about the backdrop of 285 here, and we'll see what we can do about it in the future. Anyway, this video is about the new iMac that was just announced 2 days ago on August 4th, I believe. Yes. I'm very happy to see all of the upgrades that they've made to the iMac. I'm happy to see that they finally did away with the regular hard drives that they carried for far too long, but I'm a little disappointed to see that the starting iMac at $1799 only has a 256 gigabyte hard drive in it. I think that is, I'm sorry, a 256 gigabyte solid state drive. I think that's ridiculous. I think that is very cheap of Apple. I think they can do better than that. I don't think it would be asking too much, and I don't think it would hurt them too badly if they came standard with at least a 1 terabyte. Because let's face it, as time goes on, and when you buy these computers, you're thinking about the future, and anything less than a terabyte just isn't going to get it done. I would be wanting, them to start with that and not break the bank to go with a 4 terabyte or so. Now that 8 terabyte, I believe that's, if I'm saying this wrong, I'll post it on the screen, but you can go up to an 8 terabyte. If you go with their strongest or their most powerful 27-inch iMac, the third option that you normally see, if you go with that, you can customize it in so many different ways, and you can go up to an 8 terabyte solid state drive, which is insane. Like I would hope that I wouldn't, well, over the years I guess I will accumulate that, but to go with 8 terabytes would be a little bit of overkill, especially at a price tag of $2,400 to $2,500. It's not worth it, not at all, no way. Remember when we used to have 2 gigabyte hard drives and we were satisfied with that? Now, of course, I'm speaking to people who were not necessarily millennials, as they call them. I'm not speaking to that generation, but I'm talking about people who started using computers. For me, computers, or my interest in computers, came along shortly after the internet started to blow up. So for me, it was late 90s. And I guess you could say mid to late 90s. And I really used to flip out over like 2 gigabytes. I used to be like, wow, 2 gigabytes, man, I can't believe it. That is so much space. And now, even we're talking about 2 terabytes now. We're talking about, we need 2 terabytes to be satisfied, to have enough space, to have wiggle room to work on your computer. So, 20 plus years ago, you could have a 2 gigabyte hard drive, okay, and you could get by with it. But now, here we are, 20 years later, and that will not suffice anymore. So that's something that you have to consider when you're going to future-proof a computer. And I think that having a 2 terabyte drive is kind of like having a 1 terabyte drive 10 years ago. We have to look at it like that. So that is something that I would definitely have to have if I were going to get a new computer. Yeah, if I were going to build one out, I would definitely go with at least a 2 terabyte SSD, and I would go with at least 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I would probably max out the video card to future-proof the machine. So that's what I'm going to get to right now, why I will not be buying the new iMac, the 21 or the 27 inch, either one. I will not be buying them. And it's pretty simple, but just a reminder, Apple has announced that they're going to be putting their own processors in their computers moving forward. And with that being on the horizon within the next year or two, I think that it's a better investment if you were to upgrade the computer that you have. So I'm actually going to upgrade my mid-2011 iMac and ride that thing out. So I'm going to pull the 1 terabyte hard drive out of it and put a 2 terabyte SSD in that thing through Otherworld Computing. And I think that's going to breathe a lot of new life into that machine. And it'll definitely carry me for the next year or two while we get through everything that's happening to this world right now and see where we stand financially, because I have run each of my iMacs for a total of 10 years. I had my first iMac, which was a 2002. I was on a waiting list to get that thing. It was my introduction to Mac computers, and I was just loving it when I got that thing. Well, I ran that computer, and it still works today. I ran it from 2002, the spring of 2002, to the fall of 2012. And then I stepped up and got a refurbished mid-2011 iMac because I got tired of waiting on them to come out with the new iMacs, which the following iMacs, which ended up coming out, I think they released them either right at the end or right in the beginning of 2013, actually. And that was when they introduced the Fusion drive and all that, and they changed the design of the computer. So I missed out a little bit there. If I would have waited a little bit longer, I could have gotten the latest and greatest thing. And with that being said, I also wouldn't have had to deal with the nightmares that I had with that refurb. My past with refurbished products has not been a good one. So I don't recommend buying refurbished products, especially from Apple. Another thing I don't do is I don't get Apple Care anymore. I just feel like it's just Apple tax. It's not really there to protect you like they say it does. Now, I'll give you a perfect example on this one real quick. I bought that iMac, never had any issues with it at all. Never got Apple Care for it. I bought a PowerBook G4 in 2003. Bought Apple Care for it. That thing was a complete lemon. It gave me so many problems that Apple actually ended up taking that PowerBook G4 back and giving me a brand new MacBook Air right at the beginning of 2007. I'm sorry, did I say MacBook Air? MacBook Pro. They gave me a Mac. They replaced that PowerBook G4 with a brand new MacBook Pro right at the beginning of 2007. So I was very happy with that. But after that, I was like, well, from now on, I'm going to get Apple Care. So when the time came for me to buy the next iMac after I'd run the 10-year thing, because that's what I do. I run, I can get about 10 years out of an iMac, easy. If you configure it properly, you should be able to get 10 years out of it with no problem. And with the laptops, I get typically 7 years out of them. So right now it's 2020 and I'm still running my 2013 MacBook Air, and I'm about to upgrade that as well from a 256 SSD to a 1 terabyte SSD. And I will let you guys know how all that works out. But the point that I'm trying to make with all that is when you run something you're planning on running it for 10 years, you better be ready to future-proof that machine. And with the fact that they are going to tune out the Intel Macs now and move on from them, I believe that it was Motorola who was making those G4 processors, once again, I'll have to put that on the screen if it was, but whoever was making their G4 processors and making their processors before Intel, and then there was all that thing that came out about them moving to Intel, and now that same thing is going to happen with Intel. They're going to start to, move on once they're doing all their stuff and it's all in-house. They're going to, the Intel stuff is going to start to become second class, and they're going to just phase it out and turn their backs on it. And I think a lot of people who buy these products right now this year, by the time they reach 5-6 years, they may be wanting to get another computer again, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I don't have to upgrade for 10 years, and for that reason I will wait until 2021 if I have to, or 2022, to get that new iMac, and I'm totally comfortable with that. But we will see after I make the upgrades. I'm going to make the upgrades, see how much better the iMac runs, see how much better the MacBook Air runs, and then I'll make my decision from there on whether or not I want to do that. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you think that it's a good time to go ahead and just pull the trigger and update and buy a new iMac right now? And you have to factor in everything that's going on with the pandemic too. It's like everyone's financial situation is different. So, and I'm one of those people that I try to get the most that I can out of my technology. I mean, sometimes you have to take into account, though, that, well, not even sometimes, all the time, you have to take into account that time is money. And sometimes it's not worth it to spend more time waiting and dealing with archaic technology when you can just have the latest and greatest thing and work more efficiently, work faster. Those things do matter to me. But I still think that once I throw a new SSD into that iMac, I think that it will breathe new life into it. I've been checking around and looking at some of these other videos, and it seems like it's a worthy gamble, especially for under $400 for one of the fastest SSDs out there for that machine. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Once again, I really appreciate you making it this far with me into the video. I'm going to tune out now, but then we have to look at the flip side of this, and we have to look at it from the early adopter side, because ultimately that's what you're doing. Even if you grab this, when we know that it's probably going to be the last Intel Mac, and everything I said about them going with the silicon, the Apple processors in their computers moving forward, and there's lots of confirmed reports about what things are going to be like. But do you want to be that early adopter? Because that's another thing you have to ask yourself. Like, do you want to be the one to go with that first wave of Macs? And personally, I don't want to be that. That's why I'm willing to wait until 2022, until they've had at least a year of running their own processors and working out the kinks before I go with it. But you do have to look at those things. I mean, you can get one of those Intel Macs now, and if you're not worried about them turning their back on all the Intel products and stuff like that, they're Intel-based Macs, then maybe things will be okay. You also have to look at the fact that they're already using their own processors in the phones, and everything seems to be going pretty well with the phones and the iPads and all that. So these are things that you have to consider on the flip side, because if you get one of their computers, it should last you for a decade. Like, if you got one right now and you were to max out their stronger one, and you went a little overboard and went ahead with that 10 core, wow, I mean, that 10 core should last you 10 years, right? So that's it. Those are my thoughts about it, but that's why I am not going to pull the trigger just yet. I'm going to hang in there and wait a little bit longer. Like I said, 2022 would be a good year for me to upgrade. It would keep me on my 10-year plan, which I've been doing, and I mean, that's about it. So Once again, thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like if you found any of the information useful, and subscribe.